Hi guys, this is an Absolute Pace 427 SC Cobra. I'd say it's a replica. I suppose that's the best explanation for it because it doesn't really share too many parts with the original. It is running a 347 stroker with a Vortec blower on it, about 16 PSI boost, north of 600 wheel horsepower, and probably at the motor you're talking maybe 800 or 900. So it is an absolute riot to drive. Very generously, the bloke who owns it, he might want to remain anonymous, so we'll call him Wayne, partially because that's his real name and there's more than one Wayne in the world, has told me that I'm able to take this thing out for a drive. He wants me to road test it because I did an alignment on it as part of my little side business, Capital Performance Vehicles, and also worked with CP Speed Shop to put a couple of, put some live side pipes on it, which is a pretty cool change that we've made to it. It sounds awesome. It drives like an absolute wild thing, so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to sort of show you around the car, take it for a drive, and let you maybe share the experience that I've had having this for the last probably 8 weeks while we did the work, and the last few days doing a bit of driving. It is an absolute ride of a thing to drive, so I thought it was too good not to take the opportunity just to sort of share that with you guys and maybe share what the Cobra replica fun can be about. So yeah, if you have any questions, obviously standard fare, but otherwise let's go out and have a drive in it and have a walk around it and get a look at this thing. Okay, so here it is in all of its glory. The Absolute Pace Cobra is a full aluminium chassis. We can see here we've got, are these 17s, 19s, are they? 18, so there you go, halfway between. Wheels, they're genuine center locks. You've got a full 3-piece floating rotor. The brakes are massive front and rear, so there's no issue stopping the thing. There's a bit of custom work on this engine bonnet because obviously you don't normally have 2 scoops, and this one's enlarged because what's under here does not fit. Here it is. You can see part of this aluminium chassis. It's got full inboard mounted shocks. In this case I think they're QA1 as coilovers with, you know, rebound and compression damping. Quite a, I guess, a in-depth setup. This thing has been raced at a few hill climbs and stuff like that in Queensland, as I understand it. And other than that, it's pretty well shaken down. It doesn't get hot, doesn't do anything that it shouldn't do, all those sorts of things. It's a pretty wild thing. You see you're pretty tight for room here, but in comparison to say my Cobra with the 351, the 302 289 block is considerably narrower, so you get a lot more space here, which is a really good thing. I think I'd probably build one again. I'd probably go for the smaller block and make a stroker motor, but anyway, that's by the by. There it is there. You can see the blower over here. It's all sort of put together fairly well, plumbed back in, all that sort of stuff. There you go, Vortec blower. It sounds quite good. It's not too much blower wire. It's running Motec engine management system with traction control, which is quite interesting, probably fitting of a car like this. Let me close that up. Otherwise, what else is there to say? You know, you've got an intercooler up front. These are the side pipes that CP Speed Shop did most of the fabrication on. Part of the reason for this rationale is it actually came to start with, let me just close that bonnet before I forget, it came to start with a rear exit exhaust, as most Cobras do. And obviously the issue is that aesthetically the side pipes are quite a nice thing to have. So the new owner wanted the side pipes for, I think, aesthetics, and he also wanted the option for them to be blanked off so you can actually still have it going through the rear, but with an added set of mufflers and an added cat, because in Australia we actually have to pass emissions testing for road registration, and we integrated a cat and a muffler into the new side pipes, completely welded those, did a new change, and you won't actually be able to see it, but here it actually plumbs back into the whole rear system there with an extra set of mufflers, because these can be quite obnoxious if you are doing any Ks in them. We've got a blanking plate that goes in the side here, which sends all the exhaust to the rear. It does sound kind of unique because there's still some flow through the rear, believe it or not, when you're running the live side pipes uncapped. So it's kind of an interesting thing, but it sounds really great. Pretty happy with that. Excuse my shit sort of sitting around there. It's a manualized C4 auto, which is a pretty like unusual thing in a Cobra. But it's actually really fun to drive. It's actually, like, for me, I've never spent much time in a car with a manualized C4, and it's actually just really fun to drive. It's a great cruiser. You know, it turns the tires very easily, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's got a whole heap of street cred, obviously. Like, you can't drive anywhere without being noticed in this thing. But other than that, what I was going to show you, probably not the boot because it's full of stuff. I'll show you a picture of like full inboard mounted shock setup that these cars have, which is really cool, and probably just insert a picture of, you know, a bare chassis so you can get an idea of what this thing is. But look, we'll jump in it, take it for a drive. You can see that's the traction control knob down there. I've never used it, we're just leaving it off for the moment, and I'm trying to sort of be somewhat reasonable about the way that I'm driving someone else's car. But yeah, did a bit of an alignment on it because it wasn't square when it came to me, and Wayne had sort of shared that he had a bit of an issue with it where under power it liked to sort of change lanes fairly aggressively. That touch wood is all pretty sorted now, so it's just a great bit of fun. I've never seen the thing make 16 psi because it blows tyres off it at about 5 pounds a boost. So it's an absolute animal. I reckon it would probably still be amazing with 300 horsepower less. So yeah, let's take it for a drive. Alright, so we're going to try this again because the first video predictably shit itself. Not my ideal route to be going this way on the car, but I'm going to shoot it again for you. That's the type of guy I am. Look, what's it like to drive? You don't have power assisted brakes, but you have very good feel. It's a Tilton 600 series pedal box, really good. They've changed the clutch pedal to be the dead pedal in this case, because obviously it being an auto box. Other than that, it has power steering, but I think it's like a DC micro steer or something, which offers a mild amount of, I guess, assistance in that regard, so it doesn't rob too much feel. The one thing that probably it doesn't add there is sort of, I guess, a full brand new car power steering type feel, but as you can imagine, you don't really need that or expect that. Particularly for a cruiser, it's probably just a nice thing to have, or if there's multiple drivers and, you know, they're not built like a brick shithouse, then that probably works pretty well. Other than that, suspension's fairly taut. As you'd expect, I would say it's probably more on the race car side of things rather than, you know, being on the road car side of things. So in that regard, it's a bit too taut for the road and probably a bit unforgiving, but you know, outside of that, it's still pretty good, reasonably controlled. I mean, what else is there to say apart from the fact it's a very raw and analog experience, as you could expect. I reckon you could probably drive around everywhere in second gear up to probably, you know, 100 mile an hour, and the thing would be absolutely crazy. I mean, I don't know whether it's probably not as fun as something with less horsepower that you'd be rolling through a manual gearbox, but it certainly makes speed very rapidly. I suppose the only change to that in some regard is that you can't use all the horsepower. I'll try and find a space here, surely just to give you an idea of that, but you know, top gear, third gear, even off, you know, relatively mild speeds, it's still going to blow the tyres off, and no worries. And even when you're up well in the rev range, I was sort of finding that this thing had no problem being traction limited at, you know, 100 and something k's an hour. So very interesting in that regard. So here we are, for example, first gear. No way. Right? Second gear. Still very traction limited. And this is third gear. She's starting to move pretty rapidly, and it's certainly struggling for traction, and this is on a warm day on warm semis. So yeah, look, pretty serious bit of gear. It is certainly the type of thing that requires a great deal of respect. Is there such a thing as too much horsepower? Look, I'd probably start to find my feet in this a little bit more as time goes on, which means you're going to use more of it, but I just don't think this thing's going to put down anywhere near the power that it makes. So I'll leave it up to you. I mean, I know most blokes are, no such thing as too much power, but that's kind of a bit short-sighted, you might say. But look, it sounds fucking sick. There's no worries about turning the tyres absolutely everywhere, and it puts a fucking massive smile on your face. So isn't that kind of what cars are for? Alright, well look, I mean, that probably leaves it where we need to for me. You know, I'm not going to run through the great story about how Carroll Shelby was the first person to put a rotary in an MG Spitfire. I believe that's how it goes. But, you know, you can look that stuff up yourself on YouTube. It's a great story. I think it's the fact that these things are still rolling around is a testament to how much fun and how cool they are. I love this thing. It's fucking great. You can never chip someone for owning one. Anyway, have a good one. Happy motoring. wheel traction optional. That's no heat in the pads and it stops really well. You just, you know, lean on them and it's got good feel.